All right, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're about to get started right now. For the live translations and captions, please scan the QR code on your screen. We'll also be doing Q&As at the end of this workshop, so please leave your questions in the form being displayed at the top of the screen. Also, during this workshop, we're going to have 2 live challenges where you will have a chance to win a $30 US dollar Go gift card. 1 gift card will be drawn for each challenge among the correct answers. So don't forget to scan the QR code on the screen when it appears. We'll announce the winners after all Connect 2023 workshops are completed. Now I'm going to hand it off to Jessica and Michael at Sawhorse to talk about cinematic experiences, blending form and function.
Great, thank you. My name is Michael. I'm one of the lead developers here at Sawhorses, and today we're going to be taking you through a few of the elements of cinematic experiences, kind of our history on the platform, and a couple other little things about how you guys can incorporate that into yours.
And hi, I'm Jessica Thomas, also known as DesignCheeeese as my little handle on Roblox, and I am an art director at Sawhorse.
So kind of walking you through the specific things that we're going to talk about. First, we'll kind of go a little bit more in depth on our introductions and an introduction to what Sawhorse is as a company and what we do. Then we'll take you through the experiences that we've built on Roblox thus far, what really makes up a cinematic experience, and why you as a developer should consider adding these elements to make your experiences cinematic as well, followed by, of course, your guys' Q&A for us.
So a little background on Sawhorse. We actually started out as filmmakers and making commercials. And then we became proficient in making brands happy and by creating brand content for videos. So we got into interactive through making our first experience on Roblox, which was Aloe Sanctuary. And ever since, we have been hooked on Roblox and can't get enough of it.
And so here is a little show reel that we'd like to show you guys, giving you an intro to who Sawhorse is.
Oh, God. On it.
We are launching Fashion Closet.
Ultimifying something. It's making yourself different in a beautiful way.
Guys, I really think we should turn back.
Cut left. I'm joining on the frightening fun.
Hello, is this thing on?
Welcome back, everyone, to Tommy Plays.
If you're not already, get on over to Roblox.
And drop all expectations.
Play that twice. So yeah, obviously we represent a large team with a ton of different backgrounds, a lot of different skill sets. Some of it's film, which you saw there. Some of it's and a lot of us work directly on Roblox, and that's one of the things that I do. So I'm a full stack developer with the team. I lead the development on a lot of these different projects. But I've been on Roblox, the platform, since as far back as January 2009. So I've been around for about 14 years, got over a decade of experience on it. I'm currently working through the final year of my bachelor's degree in computer science with an emphasis on games. And for the last year and almost a half, I've been working with Sawhorse to make branded experiences, some of which you saw in that trailer there. I'm multilingual and always trying to learn new things and have a thirst to learn and grow and always be a better person and creative.
And I'm Jessica Thomas. My background is in motion graphics. I am a 5-time Emmy Award winner and a 2-time Telly winner. And I art directed Aloe, Elton John, Beyond Yellow Brick Road, Clawset, and the Clawset UGC Showcase. I currently still work with Sawhorse on both video side and Roblox side, although I do like Roblox more because it's more fun. I graduated from Savannah College of Art and Design in 2012.
Great. So you saw some of them in the trailer again, but here is an overview of the experiences that have been published to the platform thus far that we've worked on. All of them are playable with the exception of Stranger Things and then Elton John, which was a one-time concert experience. So, but the rest of them you can go and play right now, including the Fenty Beauty experience, which launched just a week or two ago.
So talking about intro cutscenes. All these experiences here are ones that we have done, and these are their intro cutscenes. The intro cutscenes creates excitement right off the bat for players entering the experience and creates incentive for players to keep exploring and discovering all the things that are teased in the intro cutscenes. And it helps for players to get a lay of the land.
So one of the ways that we kind of go about making these cutscenes is we've built some of the tools that we've needed ourselves. Getting into Roblox, it doesn't really have like a sequence editor or anything just by default. And one of the really cool things about Roblox is you can build plugins, you can make your own tools. And so we built this tool that you can kind of see here in this GIF that is called Rodeo. And it is a keyframe animation tool that helps us build scenes just like you would in film. And so it's a tool that is still in development and we've been kind of working with more recently, but it was used to build all of the cutscenes that you'll see in the Fenty Beauty and Skin experience, including that intro cutscene, hero shots, all that stuff. The scene that you're seeing right here is a scene that displays the player's created gloss bomb. So it's an item that they created themselves in the experience. And this kind of takes them through that cinematic flow of like seeing the thing they created in like a beautiful light and adding a little bit more artistic value to the thing that they've made.
Yep, and artists really like the tools that our wonderful developers have made because it gives us a chance to come in there too and help with that. So cinematic displays of user-generated content is another tool that we use to make cinematic experiences at Sawhorse. So for instance, in the full Clawset experience, which is the gift on the left here, we worked on making many customizable pieces for our custom characters so that people can express themselves in a high fidelity way on Roblox. And then on the right here, which is from our Clawset UGC pop-ups, we created photo booths with hand-curated poses from iconic moments from celebrities. And we coupled these poses with camera movements based off of the red carpet slow-mo camera as seen on E! Entertainment and other fashion publications. So we use really cinematic moments to show off everything that the players create inside of our experiences.
And with that, let's hop into quiz number 1.
So quiz number 1. What was Sawhorse's first experience on Roblox? It was Aloe Sanctuary, and we built it in 1 month, if you believe it.
And I think we'll just give that a few seconds to let people
Okay.
missions.
Oh, dang it. I gave you all the answers too early.
You did, but I think that's all right. The next one will be a little bit harder. We won't say it when we're introducing it.
I'd be the best
All
teacher.
good. It's all good. All right. So now, what is a cinematic experience? We've been talking about this a little bit in the presentation thus far, but to give you a more formal definition, cinematic experiences are really those that lean into telling a story through the experience. They use all sorts of different narrative elements, such as cutscenes and interactions that we've talked a little bit about so far, to tell the story of that world in combination with an immersive environment. So in the next few slides, we're going to identify some of the cinematic elements that you can incorporate into an experience and kind of go over them in a little bit more depth.
So first off, cutscenes. So here are some examples of cutscenes, and these are cinematic storytelling tools. For example, in the GIF on the right from Fenty, this cutscene creates a cinematic hero moment highlighting the player's created gloss bomb and celebrating the player's hard work that they had to get there to create that gloss bomb. So this really makes this a cinematic moment of celebration of what they have created.
And this isn't just on Roblox. You'll see in a bunch of these slides that we have examples from other games, AAA industry, traditional game industry games that do this stuff too. So you can see on the left here, this is Hogwarts Legacy. And in a few of their cutscenes where they kind of just like telling the story and taking the player through it, you can see what they're focusing on. These are key people speaking, things that are happening that they really want to draw attention to. And so in a game like Roblox, we really wanted to draw attention in the Fenty game to the star of the show, which is the player's creations. And so that's how you can kind of see us incorporating it there. The next thing we wanted to talk about was interactions. So you'll see on the right-hand side here, this is Stranger Things Watch Party. And then on the left, we have the Outer Worlds. Interactions are focused experiences, micro experiences within your experience with a small part of the world or characters. These need to be really polished across the board so that the whole experience feels premium and cinematic. You're focusing in on a very small portion of your experience, and so you want that portion to look good and represent the wider world. So every touch point there matters.
Yeah, for real. Every detail does matter. For example, the Stranger Things watch party on the right here, the players are throwing waffles as Easter eggs to sort of call back to Eleven's fondness for waffles. So everything in here is really encompassing the show and trying to bring that to life. So narrative and guiding lore. Narrative is the overarching story of the experience, the world, and the events happening in it. And for branded events or anything with an existing IP or storyline, it is very important to stay true to that story and make this woven into its lore versus a complete deviation from it. For example, the Aloe experience, we worked really hard to bring in the brand elements from the store, the website, everything that we can get from the vibe of that brand we put into the experience. And if anything was kind of out of place or anything like that, that would really disrupt the entire vibe of the entire experience.
And it doesn't always have to be very complicated. On the left-hand side here, you can see this is an example from the game Stray. And it's not a very complex thing. They're just adding in little dialogue pop up. There's some text on it, and it just says what the character is saying. You don't have to go crazy and have like everything voice acted and all that stuff, which we know that a lot of Roblox developers don't have the means or ability to do. You can come up with these little ways to still have the characters talk, still tell the world of your story without having to spend tons and tons of hours and money in all of these other features. The last thing element that we wanted to talk about is environmental storytelling. So this can be things like using color theory, lighting and spacing techniques to have the environment guide your player through like a thoughtful progression, all the way down to the placement of just simple objects and elements in the environment to tell some kind of history of the world without causing an active event. Great example of this on the left is Fallout 4. This comes from one of their DLCs, but these are just element or objects that they've placed in the world that kind of tell a larger story about what happened in that world prior to the canonical nuclear explosions and things that created the radioactive wasteland that is in their version of Boston. So on the left here, you can see like a recreation of a scene from Titanic. And then another fun one, which to my knowledge doesn't have any history behind it, but it's just a teddy bear sitting on a cannon and just kind of has like its own unique character to it.
Yeah, in addition to elements that are hidden, it's really important to have the entire environment lit and colored and everything like that to really show the progression for the player. For example, in this GIF on the right, that is from our Carly Kloss pop-ups. We use lighting to mark out the player path and to guide the players so that they have no doubts of where they're going to go. We also use cinematic lighting placement to intrigue players to want to explore deeper into the world. So if you like look at, there's light coming in the beyond that makes people want to go and keep going into the world versus having everything dark and just that area lit. So this draws the people in longer and players to go in deeper and stay there for more meaningful interactions. So why create a cinematic experience? Good question. So for us, there's a couple different reasons why we create cinematic experiences. I'm going to go over the visual one since that's my forte. So standing out visually, making your experience cinematic right off the bat is a great way to excite your players from the start and keep their interest to play your experience. This should be completely additive and not distracting from players in your experience. For instance, no 2-minute intro cutscenes to frustrate your players that just want to get in there and play. Your visuals in the game is equivalent to like a hook in your storytelling. It needs to be right off the bat, noticeable, and be very clear for your players that are coming in. The visual language of your entire experience should be unified and thought out. From your environment to the UI, any character customization offerings you may have, everything should tie cohesively together. And any breaks from this can cause your players to leave the experience and be confused.
The other aspect you want to think about is standing out mechanically. So when people describe how a game plays, they tend to call it things like smooth or clunky, but we have to think about like what these actually mean. People like to do a thing called anthropomorphizing, which means assigning human traits to non-human objects. This is something that we generally do to make sense of events and behaviors that we experience in the world around us. The same kind of thing applies to virtual experiences, which try to mimic the real world to varying degrees. So the word clunky, for example, could be used in the real world to describe something that is clumsy or awkward, specifically in terms of motion. So if somebody uses this word to describe an experience, it typically means that there's some kind of movement or character mechanics or something is not doing what they want them to be doing fast enough or in the manner that they expect. Of course, this is kind of a general pattern and not an exact science, so your results might vary a little bit on that. So why is this important? You know, we know that we want our players to describe the experience as something that is fluid, that is smooth, that is responsive, etc. So when we break those terms down into what mechanics are actually related to them, we can identify those as sort of key parts of the user experience and then refine those. So a well-developed user experience is what makes a difference in standing out mechanically. Clunky feedback means that something is suboptimal. So no feedback or indifference means that you're probably about average. And when people are saying things like, oh, that game's really smooth, that it's really fluid, that kind of feedback means that you're starting to stand out. So consider like the animations on the slide here. You might look at these robots playing soccer and think it's kind of cool for the first loop or two, but then you'll kind of look away. But when you look at this looping image of these waves, you sit there and you stare at it because it's a very fluid motion. It looks good and it's satisfying to look at. The same kind of thing generally applies to games and making mechanics feel fluid or smooth. They like doing that mechanic simply because it feels good to do. One of the examples that I have from this is the first time that I launched into Allo. Allo actually came out before I joined Sawhorse, so this was from the perspective of an outsider. It was the first, kind of official Roblox event that I had joined, and I was just like, wow, these guys took it to like the next level. You come in and there's like this intro cutscene, you fly through the world, there's a voiceover, everything is like very well thought out, smoothly played, so like you understand what this world is and what it's about right from the start. And that really stood out to me in my mind of like, this was a really good event. And so, going from there to eventually getting contacted by Sawhorse and, working to start developing games with them, that really stood out to me personally. So with that, we'll go to our quiz number 2, which is about how long do you have to capture your player's attention?
I think that's
Right back good, yeah.
mhm.
Great. So there really is no existing study, obviously, on Roblox experience hook times that I'm aware of, at least. But we make kind of a good guess based on the analytics that we have access to. And that's also in combination with the study I did find from Microsoft Research, which showed that you have about 10 seconds to hook a user on a web page. Roblox experiences obviously are a little bit more involved, so we estimate a little bit longer, and it's not really an exact science. But we typically state that it's about 30 seconds for you to get your user's attention. It's very quick. People have pretty short attention spans when you start thinking about it in terms of like the actual length of time. And because Roblox experiences are a little more involved, I will give you like spiritual partial credit if you answer 1 minute. But the bottom line here is that you want to hook their attention as soon as you can, as soon as they get into that experience, and kind of give them the general sense of what they can expect from that experience. So they expect to spend a lot of time exploring and diving into it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we'll move on to our Q&A section.
All right, great. Thank you so much. So let's get to the Q&As, and please remember to send in all your questions at the form being displayed at the top of the screen. Let's start with the first question. So this is from Hayai Fury. Are the cinematics just video, or is the game in real time? I ask because it sounds like it consumes a lot of resources on a computer.
Yeah, that's a great question. In our experiences in the past, it's been a mix, and really only because of the Elton John experience. The other experiences that we've done have been just completely in engine in the world. They play as you're like going through the beginning. The Elton John one was a little bit different because we had non-game things that we wanted to show them. We wanted to show them like actual Elton John concerts that had happened. So we did incorporate a little bit of video there, but for the most part, we try to rely on just showing the actual environment that the players are going to be playing in so they can get excited about doing that. And in terms of performance, you might actually be surprised because as long as the game runs well as the player is actually playing it, it's not very different just having a camera floating through the world, because that's essentially all that you're doing as a player anyways. So assuming that your world is performant by itself in terms of gameplay, doing a cutscene through it really is not that taxing on the machine.
Yeah, so we typically definitely do all in-game engine as much as possible, unless, like Michael said, we have other materials that we have to show because it is just higher quality, smoother, everything.
Great. The next question is from Grevik. Hi, thank you for the presentation. My question is, what is the best way to create cinematics that don't lag in mobile?
Very similar response, I think, to the previous question. As long as your world is performant, you shouldn't really have issues. So part of your QA process is in terms of just like making a game is you should be testing on all sorts of different platforms, and setting a standard for yourself on what kind of baseline device this should run on. So you'll see on some of our experiences, we kind of set forth minimum device requirements in the description. Obviously, we can't and don't enforce those, and we'll let people try to run it, but there is a trade-off to be made. You know, you can't run the most beautiful game or rendering in the world on the worst device available. So you kind of have to strike the right balance there, and just like what level of mobile device you want to support, so that you can provide the graphical fidelity that device can handle, and still, you know, put out the experience that you want to make.
Mm-hmm.
There's a follow-up question as well from Hi Fury from the first question, which is, so do you combine green screens with 3D animation?
In our cutscenes?
Yeah, I'm assuming this is talking about the cutscenes that we were talking about. In terms of Roblox, it's not green screen per se, and we put in, you know, video frames and stuff that is mixed with the gameplay footage. So if we're going to record like the Elton John intro, for example, that used video and a Roblox environment, we'll put a video frame over it and it'll play the video, and then we'll just fade that out into the world. So it's all just directly recorded gameplay footage. Other than that, you know, in a trailer, like our reel that we showed at the beginning, we have obviously a post-production team that are awesome and have a lot of video techniques. And I don't believe that they use any kind of green screens for that, because obviously it's just like mixing gameplay footage and other. But
yeah, typically we've just either done all video or all cutscenes. We did play around with one before of putting motion graphics for the pop-up, but we ended up not using it just because we didn't really need the intro cutscene, and saved on getting into the experience faster. But no, we haven't used green screen personally.
The next question is from Gabs2526. What was the most difficult challenge of moving from a cinematic company to start creating games on Roblox?
It takes a lot more time. But luckily we hired, you know, native Roblox people like Michael here, even from Allo. It was like really the backbone of Sawhorse is that native Roblox people. We take everything that they say very seriously and work with the Roblox community and try to make it as well made for Roblox as possible.
yeah, definitely a better question for Jessica, because I don't have the video background. I was hired on to specifically do Roblox experiences.
You're here to help.
But yeah, but that being said, like, it has been a great experience coming on as somebody who specializes in that, because one of, you know, kind of Sawhorse's best qualities is that we take everybody's opinions into account, and we make sure that because everybody brings such a diverse background and like history and knowledge, we try to take seriously like everybody's opinions and comprehensively, because, you know, your audience is such a diverse audience as well. Everybody that plays Roblox has different backgrounds, they're different ages, they come from different countries. So you have to build an experience that speaks to as many of those people as possible. And the only way you're going to do that is if you're also building it with as many experiences as possible. So we have people from, you know, all around the world that work at Sawhorse and kind of bring those unique perspectives, which is just awesome.
Very well said. Yeah.
So it's J64 asks, I noticed the mention of Rodeo, the proprietary tool developed by Sawhorse. Is this tool exclusive to your Roblox creations or other Sawhorse projects?
Yes. So that one in particular, we have some things that we have open sourced and are publicly available, such as our plugin Ambience, which helps, you know, put sound effects around the environment. You guys can look that one up on the dev forum. But Rodeo in particular is a proprietary tool that we have developed to help us kind of give us that video production edge that a lot of our creatives can bring to the table. It hasn't really been decided on whether or not in the future that will be publicly available, but at the moment, that's one of our proprietary tools.
We're still adding features, so if it does go public, we definitely want it to be totally smooth.
Yeah.
Aspect ratios in any of your work. I find it to be somewhat overused in the traditional sense, but you could also go for tilted bars like a comic book.
Sorry, I missed the first part of that question.
Yeah, sorry. So the question is, have you used black bars in simulating different aspect ratios in any of your work?
We actually have, I don't think so. Unless Stranger Things.
Nothing that is currently public. I'll say that.
Cool. Go to the next question. It's from Ultra Mega Roblox Story. Should I use a cutscene to hook people to the game, add a tutorial, show a beautiful landscape, or other ways?
Those are all great use cases for cutscenes. So one of the things that you're talking about is called an FTUX or a FTUI. Those are just acronyms that stand for the first time user experience. So cutscenes can be a great way to introduce people to both the world and the environment, but also the mechanics of your game. So if you take them from, like a world flyover and you explain you have to go here to do this thing, then you kind of give them that like guiding influence at the very beginning to help them get started in your game. It can be used for any of those applications. They're all great.
Yeah, that brings up a good point. The best cutscenes actually do somewhat of the onboarding of the tutorial, so that technically maybe that can shorten the tutorial time and just give a quick flyover of where to go, make it easy for them to understand if you do the cutscene right.
Great. It's J64 has a question for Jessica. What are some strategies Sawhorse employs to ensure that the experiences they make aren't too overwhelming for the player?
Yeah, well, like Michael mentioned before, the FTUI or the FTUX is really important to guide the player and make sure that they know exactly where to go. Since we have done experiences that are like new mechanics and stuff, we have had to work on our FTUX and, like even rework it in some cases, but that is definitely the most important part in my point of view.
All right, a couple more questions here. So from Carlos Gabriel 2602, what is the biggest development challenge for Sawhorse?
There's been a few. I think one of the bigger development challenges that we have is that a lot of the people who develop on Roblox and a lot of the people that we hire don't have a lot of experience in working with a team as large as Sawhorse. Your typical Roblox development teams are max of like 3-4 people in most cases. And so you bring them into this environment and suddenly you're working on teams of like 8 to 10 people and you're working across multiple projects, and it can be a lot to handle. So one of the challenges that we've faced and we've overcome to some degree or still working on is just that process. Like, how do we get people to work in a larger team? How do we introduce them to that? How do we teach them that? And people that have never had professional experience before, especially working in like software or a field like this. So it's been a fun little journey and developing that. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, it's been a process of onboarding certain people, but there's definitely a lot of amazing Roblox talent out there that we're willing to like work with and help guide into the whole ecosystem.
Awesome. And this will be our last question for the session. It comes from Jay Queso. I appreciate your demonstration on the experiences. My question is, what are some key elements that make a cinematic experience in movies or video games truly immersive and captivating?
One of the key moments, I think, is that like intro hero shot. Like for me, building environments and stuff, like that spawn point needs to look wow, awesome, jaw-dropping in my point of view, so that people want to like take that step forward and keep going. What do you think?
Yeah,
Michael?
yeah. If you think about film, it's all from a very like single perspective. This is how the artist wanted you to view the world, and I feel like that's how you should treat your cutscenes as well. As like, how do you want your players to view the world? If you don't have cutscenes and you just jump straight into a game or like a default Roblox template, they just jump in and they start moving the camera around however they want to look around and experience the world. And that's great. That's part of what adds the life to video games. But if you want to make it more cinematic and kind of have that expressivity that you get from the single shot, like fixed perspective kind of approach, then cutscenes and all that are a great way to do that and make sure that your player has seen the world the way that you want it to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Michael and Jessica, for a great session. Really appreciate it. So this is going to be a wrap for this workshop. For everybody listening and watching. Stay tuned for our next workshop, which is the Introduction to Creating Music for Experiences, which will kick off tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Thanks again.
Wonderful. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.